Epik Mellon podcast, conversations with the real humans behind broadband networks, cybersecurity, and the future of communications. Brought to you by QA Cafe.
In this episode, I chat with Evgueni Tzvetanov of Verizon about our work at Purple Foundation, the future of the home gateway, and what we all want out of AI and home automation.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of the Epik Mellon podcast. I think I have the countdown again, and this is episode 22. 22. So we did 20 in 2023, and there will hopefully be 26 this year because it's once every other week. And I've been keeping up. With me is Evgueni Tzvetanov.
Hey, great. Great job.
From Verizon, and Evgueni and I work together on some cool stuff through specifically through Purple Foundation, but incidentally through through everything that we end up doing.
Exactly.
And he's a character. He was first endeared to me by having his Zoom icon be him dressed as a pirate. So I was like, yeah, I like this man.
Well, I actually have the same beard there. Maybe a little bit
that's
long.
right.
And a pipe. Actually, I can show you the pipe if you want to, but no, let's not go into it.
Oh, the pipe. That's right. That's cool.
The corn pipe. Yeah,
As usual, Epik Mellon is funded by my employers at QA Cafe, and the views expressed by myself or my guest do not reflect those of QA Cafe or its management, and especially not Verizon.
No, we're not plugging in. We're just showing logos and whatnot.
Yeah, it's totally incidental, the clothing that we're wearing.
Yeah.
As we are funded entirely by QA Cafe, I like to speak a little bit about our products before we start. And so many of you have heard all this before, and you're perfectly welcome to fast forward to the end of my little spiel. But for those of you who haven't heard it before, we make three great products. They are CD Router, CloudShark, and Passport. CD Router being the industry standard test solution for broadband gateways, Wi-Fi routers, and other customer premises equipment, or CPE, which is the stuff that Evgueni and I work on so often. CD Router contains thousands of fully automated test cases designed by network experts covering feature validation, stability, certification, and performance all in one. Moreover, QA Cafe's world-class support team acts as an extension of your own, helping you understand the technologies and build better products overall. CloudShark is the way to make network packet captures an easy and useful part of your cybersecurity workflows. CloudShark helps you work on tough issues together without passing around large trace files, losing data, or risking security leaks of valuable information, and helps entry-level analysts learn from your senior experts, curate best practices, and standardize operating procedures around packet captures. And lastly, QA Cafe's Passport is a fully automated test solution for testing the connectivity and interoperability of IoT and smart home devices. Testing with Passport is as simple as connecting your device, selecting tests, and getting clear pass-fail results with full log data and packet captures to find and resolve bugs before they end up as a bad review of your product. You can find more about CD Router, CloudShark, and Passport at www.qacafe.com. All right. It's like I haven't said that 22 times before.
Man. That's quite a spiel. That's amazing. I'm not going to plug too much Verizon. I just say that we have the best network there and the best connections, and everybody's happy with us. So I'm good.
It's empirical, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But suffice it to say, by the way, is it melon or watermelon works?
Mellon. So it's Mellon. No, so it comes from. It's like a portmanteau of the Greek for the future of communications, which is Epik Mellon, right? Well, I looked up weird things like that, right? And then I was like, oh, what is what is Greek for future communications? And I was like, that's what it has to be called.
Good. So how have you been recently? Or you should start with that.
Yeah, right. It's good. I mean, all the stuff that we've been doing, and it's been very busy with regards to that.
It is,
especially on the
but
Purple
it's amazing
side of things.
It's amazing things coming.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I've been expecting this for many months and years, if you want. I would like to see Purple in a launch. I would like to
Yeah.
see our work out there recognized.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, not to plug, in City Router, but an
Oh,
amazing
please
job
plug
that,
CD
that you
Router as
guys
much as you do.
for the CI in Purple, and everybody appreciates it, and everybody appreciates your activity there, considering that the foundation is just starting to catch
Yeah.
up with the industry from the perspective of launching. We've been working on this for a while, but now the launch comes this year, and
Yeah.
hopefully we will have that reflecting all the work that we've been doing in Purple
Right.
and Broadband Forum and other organizations together.
So a little bit of background for people, and I've talked about this before, but I just want to make sure people are familiar. Yevgeny and I are talking about the Purple Foundation, prpl foundation.org, which develops an open source software platform for routers and Wi-Fi devices, right? Home routers and Wi-Fi devices, specifically for operator grade stuff, right? And it's funny how it's like when an idea whose time has come, like happens, because the stuff we've been working on is stuff that people has been like a holy grail for people for like 15, 20 years, right? And it's been hard to get the industry to come together and do it, but now it's finally happening, and it's happening with RDK too, because obviously I've covered RDK before, but like Purple Foundation is set on some very specific goals that are panning out to be extremely fortuitous, right?
One thing that I have to add, though, is that we are the organization that strives for standards, and that's
Hmm.
why we're so close to Broadband Forum. But I'll tell you what, I mean, looking at the industry, it has grown so much. I've been scared of the rate of technology popping up here and there, and I'm like, how do I catch up with all that? Knowing my history,
No, so I actually want to talk to you about that. So like, what is your position officially in Verizon right now?
um, my official title is Distinguished uh, Software and Systems Architect.
Right.
But I mean, titles
No,
don't
exactly,
do
right.
much. Basically, from the perspective of what do you do, how do you do it, and basically, I consider my main function in Verizon as representative of Verizon in Purple. So most of my day is taken by the Purple Foundation meetings
Right.
and activities, and of course, I take part in our broadband device technology team. But my part there is, working with the team, doing a lot of testing of our new devices, and but mostly architecture, software, and
Cool.
system architecture, both in Verizon and in Purple. Mostly in
Right.
Purple,
Right.
but
Right.
working with the requirement that come from Verizon and other operators. So one of the major roles that I would say I have is to consider all the operators' requirements. All the Purple operator members are actually individual, tier one representatives in the industry, and all they have their own requirements. But what we're trying to do is trying to create common set of
Right.
requirements in Purple,
Right.
try to create requirements that adhere to the standards, and that's
Right.
the difficult part,
Yeah.
in the industry, having to build everything from scratch, custom made, not always works.
Yeah.
It's good
No,
to
no,
have
and
some.
that's where things are going now, right? And this has come up a
Yep.
couple times before, where there's been sort of a what's the word? It's like a paradigm shift for like I know that sounds kitschy, but for lack of a better term, it's a paradigm shift, and
Yeah,
you
it
see
is.
a little bit of it already for just from the fact that the operators were already taking over the development of the software that's running on their devices, right? And so that's
And
been happening already, and then to have them all come together and decide to do it together, right, is like the next.
Yeah, it's the next level. Basically, what we're trying to do is, again, adhere to standards. And what is important is that we have this amazing process that started in Purple the certification for prpl solutions, and we know that not a small part is played by QA Cafe as well there.
Yeah.
Again,
It's like
plugging, but
once we've thrown Tim Winters at a problem, it's all
well, it's all about making the things better for the
yeah,
customers.
right,
What we
right,
want to do is we want to make sure that we can launch in a timely manner. We can experience, the improvement in the customer experience in the customer uh, uh, premises and in their solutions. We want to help them utilize not only the network but the ecosystem that can be created in such environment, and prpl allows that to happen,
right,
which
right,
is
right, right, right. Yeah, including the ecosystem around applications, which it's I've been thinking a lot about this. I've written a couple times about this on LinkedIn at least, which you've seen, where it's like for me, obviously, it's very hard for us to talk about this because we're in it so deep, right? And it's very easy to be like, oh, and actually, this was the article I just wrote was about, right? It's very easy for us to be in deep in the technology and be like, this is great, right? And forget
yeah.
whether or not it's actually great, right? But I really do
But
feel like what, no, go ahead.
oh, but it is. That's what I'm
Yeah,
confirming. Please go
right,
ahead.
right, right, right. It totally is, right? And so, um, it really is because I feel like this as a consumer too, right? It's like, is there coming a time where we look at this thing that the operator either gave us or we were told to go buy, right? And then there's the whole weird world of people who actually research and buy their own routers out there, uh,
Yeah.
right? As just as they would like a graphics card or something. Um, but like for it to be this shift where rather than it's just the 1% of consumers care about what that thing is, but maybe it's a much greater percentage, and now it's a thing that people talk about like any other appliance in the home, right? I'm like trying to name this new thing. Is it always going to be called the router?
Well, I mean, uh, different operators use different terms, but what I want to put as a twist on this is that we have done research. Different operators do different researches for their customers and about their customers. And what is important in these researches is to see what is the experience that customers have usually with retail box versus what we provide. And um, bottom line for every one of them is they just want everything to work.
They
But
just want everything to work.
correct, yeah, that's right, and that's the bottom line experience. But then when you build upon this is uh, and people get educated. I'm so surprised because in the recent few years, I have seen a lot of questions from customers that point that, hey, I've heard of this ability that the router can do, or the extender, another term that we are plugging here, can do. Can we do that? And a lot of the operators recently is like, hey, you know what? In our ecosystem, we can have a plethora of apps that can provide customer experience, not only on the level of the service itself, but we can have value-added services, so-called value-added
Right.
services, which are applications pertaining to a lot of functions in the house. For example, you can hook up your security system to your router. You can
Hmm.
have even something uh, like somebody's coming to your house and they get a notification. They send a notification to you and it plugs into the router, and then your camera at the porch will register that somebody's coming, and face recognition will take that and say, oh, you know what, your friend Jason is coming. I'm like, no, I don't want to get this guy into my house. But
This is a very
bottom line
important
is
use case.
right. But more importantly, it's security. It is expansion
Yeah.
of what the home systems can do. And now we have the horsepower for it. Recently, we have reference boards that
Right.
are uh,
Right.
plugged in purple, which allow this to happen. And not only that, but we see that this expansion can go a long way now with standards from CSA, like Matter. It's amazing how everything comes together.
Right.
And
Right.
believe me, I mean, at my age, I'm struggling to catch up with everything. It's amazing.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, speaking of which, so what did you do before this then? Like what were you working on before all the purple stuff happened?
Oh, I have a long history, so I'll start with this. That in the 80s, I was a teenager, in 12, 13 years old, when I first got my hands on a small processor system based on Motorola 6800. If
Ah.
people know what that is, they will say, "Yeah, you're too old for this webcast."
No, no, but if that was what it was, that was already sending you down a particular route, right?
Yeah, yeah. So that actually basically powered my love for microprocessors, for computers, etc. But along the way, what I love about all these things, you can get down to this low level things, and in a board, I'm looking mostly on the low level part, just to get to know the board, etc.
Mhm.
So uh, professionally, I started and I've been in different roles throughout my career. I don't want to go into that because it's too long. But
Yeah.
recently, I'll start with the U.S. I came here, and the first job that I had was I was working for IBM, and I was a consultant in Tulsa, Oklahoma. At the time, MCI WorldCom, they just merged, and I went there to start working on some of their projects. And I was very impressed at the time. It was 1998. There was a mail robot that goes around the building. It's a huge building. It's like two
Right,
stadiums
right,
put
right.
together and two stories, and the mail robot will go around, beep, throughout the cubicles, and the cubicles, they had streets there between the cubicles, so the street names, how you find somebody's is where their cross section is. And the mail robot was amazing because it goes around, beeps, and you leave your mail on it, or you take the mail that it carries. It goes to the elevator and it flashes an IR to the elevator. The door opens, it gets in, gets on the second or the first floor, depending on where it is. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And if there are people there, it will beep and get in between them. It will push in regardless. But that was my first encounter with future technologies. At the time, it
Right.
was an experimental thing. Apparently, MCI WorldCom had a lot of money, and then they went bankrupt, not because
And
of
then
the
they did
robot.
not.
Well, not exactly. I mean, they broke apart,
Yeah.
and I mean, we know
Yeah, yeah.
all about the, the telecoms in US, what happened next, but we're not in that history now. But what is interesting about my life is I went through different phases in my career, experimenting with different roles and whatnot. But before I came to Verizon, I was in home automation and office automation company called
Cool.
Crest
Okay.
Electronics. Yeah, and it's all about embedded devices. Embedded
Right,
devices
right,
are
right.
my life, big part of my life. But what is interesting, I learned that galaxy, and then I moved to next galaxy, to the telecom, back to the telecom where I actually started. And I was amazed how the evolution of technology came to exist nowadays, and what is powering our lives now.
Right.
Information is huge. Information is big power, and that's what's powering it. And fortunately, telecoms are catching up with the latest technologies to provide that information to all the customers around US
Yeah.
and throughout the
Yeah.
world.
Right,
So
right,
this is
right,
my
right.
short history. If you want to elaborate on something, I'll do that, but I don't want to
No,
waste.
no, no. So it's interesting. I just a couple things that's really interesting about that, right? So, um,
Yes. Yeah.
the first is that a lot of, like you're saying, a lot of this technology has actually been around for a while, right? Like I remember when I got my first PC. my first PC that I owned personally, right, when I was 15, that I bought with my own money and all this, right? Which is great because my teenager just did it too, right? And I was like, aha. Uh, it was an IBM, and it was the predecessor to what is now Lenovo, right? Um, it came with a smart home system, right? It came with smart plugs, right?
Wow.
That would interact. It was like serial into the power line, right? And then it would
Yeah,
communicate with them over that, right?
yeah, yeah.
And that so
Nice.
that was 20, that was almost 30 years ago, right?
Well,
And so it's just,
it's amazing. I mean, what
yeah.
you're saying now is that we actually saw the foundation of all these things. Oh, I'm sorry. This, if you hear sound here, some people are doing some remodeling in my neighboring condo. I'm sorry about that. But anyway,
Don't mind the construction.
we saw the birth of the modern technology at the time. Oh, you know what? I'll give you one better. You know, you bought your computer. I had to buy on parts. You know, buy parts and then assemble one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, it was hard times. I was back in Bulgaria, and it was I was a student. We just 89 happened. You know, Berlin Wall. So Bulgaria, actually, I'm originally from Bulgaria, declared democracy and independence from all the Soviet bloc and whatnot um, by on the next day after the Berlin Wall fell. It was long time coming, but during that time I was a student in my university. It was Gabrovo University. It's not very well known throughout the world, except people that actually know where Bulgaria and Gabrovo is. It's a beautiful town, by the way. But um, what was interesting about it, Bulgaria was one of the first countries in the Soviet bloc that we had the backbone for the internet at the time. It was ARPANET
Ah,
backbone, and then I saw the revolution coming. Somehow, it came to me that this is going to be the base for our communication in the future, and my major was network systems and networks and systems basically, but at that time, I started talking about how I assembled my computer. So I had to take a bus to a factory, which was close to the capital of Sofia, to assemble some parts from there. I bought some other parts from somewhere else, but the first thing that I bought, is funny, it was a mouse. So I built the computer around the mouse, or
nice.
because it was readily available. It was in the next neighboring store, and I was like, I'm going to buy a mouse now. This is how you
Well, I
start.
know, right? Yeah. No,
It
no, it's
sounds
funny. It's like you buy the case last.
right, exactly. The case that includes the power supply. Like, I
Yeah.
have to plug everything to see how it works, but I need to have a case in the power supply to do that. Yeah.
Wow, that's
It was
cool. That's really
It was
cool.
a fun time. It was fun time, and you know, the first time that I connected two computers was through Lantastic. If you remember that, you know, serial kind of connection first,
Mhm.
it was amazing. You know, it was RS-232 connection, a remote kind of image of what networking should be. But I was one of the first, and I was so excited, like, oh my goodness, I connected two computers, and then
I, u-
other
I used
networking.
that. I used that to play two-player Warcraft, the original Warcraft.
Yep, yeah, I remember that game. I used to play it too. I am that old too. Well, you're younger than me. You're much younger than me compared.
I've been told I'm of the generation that is in between all ages.
That's good. That's very good.
Yeah,
You take the essence of both. You know,
yeah.
that's
No,
very
no.
nice.
So I was just it was I when I was in high school is when America Online and Prodigy came
Oh
to
yeah.
be, right? Before the web, when they all had their own little thing, right? And you're just like,
They
oh,
were
I'm just gonna
separate.
go in a chat room and play some dumb games and go to an encyclopedia, right?
Oh, when I was younger, I can tell you, I was actually taking care of some of the BBS systems. I don't know if you remember those, but those were before internet. You could log in and download some software or download some
I
plugin.
loved BBSs. Oh
Yeah,
man, they were so fun.
and you would use 9600 bots modem and stuff like that, and you will wait forever till something comes to your computer. But it
Well,
was fun. It was amazing.
what's crazy about that, and it's great because it brings us to the conversation that
Yeah,
that we should probably have, and I think that I've had before on the show is that
sure. Yeah,
the internet, as experienced by us, the consumers, was over the top, right? Originally, it was we weren't going through MCI, we weren't going through AT&T, or whatever the the hodgepodge of things they were
correct. Yeah,
before Verizon was Verizon, right? Um,
right.
we weren't going through them for the internet. We didn't buy it from them. We just needed the phone line, and then we bought it from
Correct.
somebody else, right?
Right. Get off the
Versus
modem. I
now,
need the phone.
it's that horrible sound when you pick up the phone. But that's crazy, right? Because now it's like then it's like there's an evolution of the things that the operators started to take ownership of
Yeah, and
because
that's
it's theirs.
yeah, amazing how things are turning up. And you know, like I said, I can't catch up with all the chipsets, all the hardware that's coming out, all the software. Oh my goodness! I mean, I knew I've been in development for 25 years before becoming an architect, and I'll tell you what. I mean, um, languages, that evolution. Currently, I can't catch up with a number of them.
Yeah,
Not
it's
only
impossible.
the
Yeah.
syntax and but it's impossible. But um, I'm sorry, I don't want to be negative, but I'm going to turn a twist here towards
Go
something
ahead.
else. Young generation probably needs to get some more hands-on on the hardware and some low-level stuff, because a lot of people nowadays don't seem to know how to allocate memory, how to free it, what is I/O, how do you map I/O memory with registers in different chipsets and whatnot. So it's very hard to find specialists that know and have these skills.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that one thing. The other thing is, if you're a developer, even in a scripting language, don't you want to know what's happening in the system, in the machine? You just rely on the ghost of the machine and let it happen, right? No, no, you should actually know more about this. That's not a ghost.
No, I
It's
don't want to
actually,
do that. I just want to tell ChatGPT to write some code for me and have it work.
well, that's another story. A lot of people think that artificial intelligence will solve a lot of problems. Um, I will step back a bit conservative and say that as much as many problems that it will solve, there's a chance that it will create more problems for
It's
us.
already happening. It's already
Yeah,
happening. If
it
you see,
is. It
if you
is.
go on to what was it? Zach here at the office shared something with us the other day, and it's already getting to the point where people think that you can just use it, right? And they're not double checking themselves, or they're not being double checked. And so there's a number of Amazon products that are out there where the description is literally uh, this particular thing violates my standards and I can't produce content for it. And they just literally copied that and pasted it into the description of the products, right?
Well,
And so that's like the extreme, but that's very indicative of all of the problems that can happen, right?
I also consider something else. I mean, as good as AI is on solving problems in the programming, it may actually be a really good tool for a hacker.
Oh yeah,
So there is a chance that the information out there that's being collected by the collective mind, if you want, and I'm not talking about Borg. I'm talking about the internet and the collective information stored in all these search engines as indexes and whatnot, that can be used very easily by an AI to break into someone's home. That's why,
oh yeah,
seriously, we take security very seriously in Purple and in as
right.
operators. Plus,
Now,
there's one thing that people don't know. I just want to open that. Sorry to interrupt, Jason, but one thing that is important from our standpoint is that we respect the privacy of our customers, and we are under obligation from different organizations in the United States. At least I can speak for Verizon, but I'm sure that all the operators have that. We have the obligation to secure the connections and to make sure that we don't reveal any private information,
Right.
unlike the big IT, which actually collects private information, is using it. And the only information that I say is legitimate for these companies is crowdsourcing.
Right.
Otherwise, I don't appreciate how we have been attacked with you know, knowing where I live, knowing what do I go and shop for, and all this kind of stuff. Immediately, I get presented by thousands of ads, whether I want them or not, or whether I consider their products or not. And then not only that it's annoying, but sometimes it's even scary because I sent through Google Mail my itinerary to my sister, and suddenly I get ads related to that itinerary. I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
my itinerary was parsed by something in the Google Mail facility.
Hmm.
So how dare they do that?
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough. What is it? Convenience is the death of security or whatever.
Yeah, that's what happens nowadays. But
Yeah.
we
Well,
all
so
know,
no, but what I was going to say before is when you were talking about the stuff that consumers want, right, from the surveys
yep,
that you
yep,
guys have done. Is that it? Is that the number one thing? Because we've seen that from some other reports, right? That is the number one thing they're concerned about, and not necessarily just privacy, but security in general, right? Like, is
uh,
that the feedback that everybody that we're getting?
yeah, definitely. I'll tell you what we promise our customers a very strong statement. We promise our customers that we will never reveal their information. Um, and when we need to exchange information, we always ask for their permission. And if they say no, we are not exchanging that information. So a lot of people have nothing to hide. Sometimes when they have to share information with other organizations, they're okay with that. And even sometimes people encourage it for some or other reasons.
Right.
But what is important here is that we are true to what we stand for, and this is protecting our customers.
Right.
Every operator in the US stands behind that statement because they know that that has been the cornerstone of success, knowing that you have the power to manage the customer network, meaning they don't even want to know what's in there. They want this to work. But in order for it to work, we need to get into the devices and see how they use the network and how we can utilize better our
Right.
facilities and our capabilities so that we can get to the full customer
Oh, right,
satisfaction.
because not all applications and not all traffic is the same. It's not, right?
That's correct.
And
Yeah,
and this was always the big sticking point of all the net neutrality screaming in the past, right? Is
right,
that you cannot to a degree, if you really want these new things to work, especially if we're going to talk about telemedicine, right? Let's go to the extreme, right? It's telemedicine, right?
right,
Gaming, yes, you need low latency and it needs to be definitely delivered. But there are areas in the world where there are certain applications that you can't make mistakes, right? And so
yeah.
the
Yeah, no,
reliability of that packet has to be very good. And in order to do that, you can't treat all the traffic the same. You especially can't treat all the traffic the same if there's multiple different kinds of traffic happening at the same time, right?
definitely.
And so this whole idea that it is supposed to be this invisible dumb pipe is just it's just not realistic, right? And maybe it was realistic before, but not now. Like
And also, I agree. I mean, 100%, especially considering that majority of our customers would like to not get involved into all the management and whatnot. They may actually turn on parental controls depending on if how naughty their kids are, if you want. But one important thing that I can tell you is from my personal experience with a friend of mine. We were sitting in a lab, and he had AR VR equipment on his face, and years and everything. And at some point, it became so bad. He screamed. Actually, he threw it out, threw it away from his head, and I'm like, "What's going on?" He said, "This thing is giving me such a headache because there were some latency in the goggles and the eyes. I mean, the mind cannot percept that
Right.
quickly those changes, or if you have freezing frames and whatnot. So it's actually screwing up your mind.
Yeah, yeah. It's effectively
So
giving you terrible motion sickness, right? Like,
yeah, yeah. Not only, but it turns out that it may actually scramble some functions in your mind that you cannot not recover for a few hours. Even he said that in some cases he couldn't even drive, which is
oh yeah,
funny because I'm like, well, your brain, you shouldn't be. I mean, it shouldn't be affecting the brain that way, but in fact it happens. And one of the most important things recently is not speed that much, but latency. And
yes,
it's important that all the equipment that works with AR VR doesn't have the latency, doesn't have missed frames and then drop packets and whatnot. So we all know that it's a big topic, especially knowing how much uh, now we have in front of us, considering optimization of the networks and quality of service, etc. So all these things put together are changing our lives to the point where you step back and say, well, is this good for me or not? Always ask that question because if it may actually scramble your brain, you got to be careful with it. So you need to have the service that requires that has the quality and the requirements that AR/VR has.
right,
In a
right, right,
game,
right,
you may actually lose a life, which is virtually whatever. You will be mad at some point, but if this scrambles your brain, I don't think you can recover that quickly. So
right, right.
we always have to be careful. Always,
Yeah, yeah,
technology is all for the best of our future, but we will have to um, you know to do this step, or these steps, I would say, carefully, especially when it comes to AI and higher quality technologies like AR VR, which
right,
of
right,
course can
right,
change our lives. But again, we just need to make sure that they don't interfere badly with our lives.
right, right. And it presents this interesting opportunity, right? Because you have a situation where, like you were saying, it's 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 in Verizon's best interest to make sure that they protect customer data, and do a lot of stuff, and then
Right,
protect
right,
privacy, right? And
right.
the customer has a vested interest in hearing that from their operator, right?
Of course. Yeah.
They might not have in the past, right? It might not have occurred to them that that is the person that they should rely upon for that to be true, right? Meanwhile, they are relying upon other companies that exist out there, and we all know who they are. I'm not going to call them out. That explicitly use their information, right? It is their entire business model to do so, right? And so you have operators are in a good position to come along and be like, here's all the things that you do through the network. Now that everything is always connected all the time, and every single facet of our lives functions in this way, in at least some capacity, right? when when your when your washing machine is attached to the internet, right? It's you're now everything that you're doing is now
Right.
part of that,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And so the whole, the backstory behind all the work that we're doing in Purple, and the explosion of the number of application vendors that have come out of the woodwork since this has
Right.
become a thing, like very rapidly. Like I don't know how to convey that to people, but like it was even the last summit. It was like there were just people we had no idea existed before then.
Right. And that's actually that's the key. Um, Events like the Purple Summit last October and the October before that in Amsterdam, they opened the door, especially last October, opened the door for application developers to come and see the potential
Mhm.
and use the standardized high-level API in Purple to uh, utilize in their applications and create this particular ecosystem trend in Purple. And I'm so glad that we are very open and very flexible in creating new working groups, especially now we have that application developers. They call it Target Tiger Team, but it's actually another working group that accommodates all the application developers and their needs. And we're trying to do whatever possible to assure that there is access to the proper facilities in the router to utilize them, so that the
Exactly.
applications will be efficient, and we will
Right.
have a very sophisticated ecosystem on top of
Right.
our equipment.
Right. And for the most part, the applications that are being built are all operating on the things that a router can do or has access to, right? And those are all the things that a service provider has the opportunity to take ownership of, right?
Right. And I'll tell you what, I mean, I'm not speaking from Verizon perspective. I'm speaking also from every operator that is Verizon member. And even in the Network X last year, there was even a very comical situation between AT&T and T and Verizon when we actually talked. There was a panel on which AT&T, Verizon, Orange, and our friends from Dish, and there's some other people in the panel. Um, the interesting part is that considering outside of that venue and outside in the world, AT&T and Verizon are competitors to the bones. But in Purple, we work together, uh, and we collaborate with each other
Oh
to
yeah.
create that standardization. That's the difference between the real world and what we are trying to accomplish here. And the real world is actually much more vicious than our engineering world, where we are trying to accomplish something for the good of everyone, including our
Right.
customers, of course. And this is good for the industry, good for many other industries that we support: application developers, scientific communities, solution providers, and audio video solution providers as well, um, telephone line providers, and we know that telephone landlines are now something that's going to be in the past soon.
Yeah.
Um,
I just read that article
they're
and I was
still
like, ugh.
Yep, yep. Everything happened so quickly in my lifetime. It's just spinning my head, frankly. I mean, that's the technological revolution we are going through, and it's still going. It's it's
Right.
not slowing down. It's still going very fast
Well, I was trying
forward.
to think of it in the context of like if I was somebody who's 100 years old, right? Which those people are around right now,
Oh,
right?
well,
Who
yeah,
were
yeah,
born in the depths of the depression before any of this and have seen so many technological revolutions at this point that it's like,
right. Yeah, I mean, at the time when they were kids, the only technological thing that they knew were telephone, uh, probably steam engines, and some internal combustion engines, and some stuff that is really steampunk technology now. but but frankly, I mean, even from our lifetime, I remember playing with some. Very discrete components. My first radio that I created when I was young, my dad actually led to this, was actually with a tube, diode tube,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
a variable capacitor and a coil, and that was it. That was the first thing that I did. The most thing that I struggled with was the power supply, because
Yeah.
that tube
Yet again.
had a special need for power that I had to put in my head, and make a transformer of some kind, and put some circuit around it. It was crazy. But then the explosion of transistors, of chips, and all that happened in my lifetime so quickly that I just, going back and looking at that. We were in California with my wife in 2011 in Mountain View in the Computer Museum. So we were going among the exhibits there, and I point to and say, I work with this, I work with this, I work with this. And I like fourth-fifth of the exhibits were in the field where I worked. I know
Yeah.
about all things from the mainframes until now. And my wife's look at me and she says, you're old, right? And I'm like, well, you're
I've
not far
I've
behind
been to
me
that
anyway,
museum.
because
It's
she's also in
wild.
technology. So, um, it is amazing. I mean, I've probably, like I said, I've worked with four-fifth of the technologies in there, not with all the models and stuff, but I mean, you can have the idea, of course, from the generation there. And it's amazing how things evolved so far. Now, considering that in the space race we're not in the same boat. I mean, from technology perspective, we are way, way forward, but when it comes to space, it's going to be very tough. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of and I'm very fond of our space technologies, and I just have this dream that it will never come true, I guess, to see the Earth from orbit. But I can do it with AR, VR, I guess, just
No,
for the sake of
I
it.
mean anything, the private sector,
Anything
everything
can
gets
happen.
better
Yeah,
and
that's
cheaper.
I don't want to swear on it, but considering the rate of growth currently, and that we forgot how to land on the moon, and it's just too much. I don't know. I was hoping that in the 21st century we're going to have a big leap of in that field, but unfortunately the leap was only in the entertainment business.
Yeah.
That's all we
Well,
had.
you know what I find interesting, right? It's like you say stuff like that and you feel like because the ultimate reason why stuff like this doesn't happen is one or two factors. Either somebody's in the way or there just isn't a consumer demand for it, right? Or a little of both. But I always feel like whenever if somebody is actually speaking it out loud like you are, you're not the only person that thinks that way,
I know.
right? And if you're not the only person that thinks that way, then there is definitely a market for those things,
Oh yeah. Oh,
you
I
know?
think I'm not. I don't want to sound negative, but I was hoping for more, frankly. Knowing how.
Well, talking about hoping for more, like I was really hoping for more uh out of generative AI and voice assistants. Because one of the
Right.
things that annoys the crap out of me right now is the fact that they haven't done anything with it, right? The
I
fact that
think.
when I talk to Siri or I talk to Alexa, it's just terrible. Like it doesn't do anything useful to me at
Right.
all, other than maybe do scheduling and add stuff to my grocery list. But I'm like, this revolution, this stuff is sitting here. It's sitting here right now that
I
I
know.
could say, "Hey Alexa, do this, do this, do this, then do this. Tell me about this," and put it all together, and it would work. But they're not doing anything. I don't get it. I'm like, come on, pick up the pace.
Well, yeah, but we have to remember that it all comes down to compute power, and for AI, for decision making, you will need to involve, connected world, and your Alexa or whatever home assistant you're using or phone assistant, they are powerful enough just to pick up information that's already collected, but they're not making the decisions. And decision making is a key factor here, because for an AI to work, it means that it needs to decide on certain way it will present the information, and then in certain way it will act to find that information for you or do something for you, and you will have to give the AI the freedom. I'm sorry about the noise. I hope that this is not polluting too much.
No, no, no. I actually can't hear it, so it's good. Yeah.
That's good. And I'm hoping that this particular trend will continue in the future, but we will have a better understanding from the creators. How do we allow the AI to work, and what our restrictions should be from human
Yeah, yeah.
perspective? Because
Right.
we may easily go over many lines. We are used to those lines in the society, but apparently AI does not have the consciousness, nor um, uh, the ability to assess, the criteria which we consider good or bad, or for good or
No, it
bad.
really doesn't. It doesn't even possess the ability to decide if it doesn't know something,
Right,
right?
exactly. So those are
That's the other one key feature that I wish ChatGPT had would be like it would stop if it doesn't know and say, I don't
right.
know this.
Yeah, but then again, we're expecting to see uh, we're expecting to see this evolution in the next few years to be even more pronounced. But what I'm worried about is when the decision making crosses lines that we consider taboo, or we consider too much, or we consider above human understanding. So uh, I will have to say that it's a great privilege to have this session with you and to open up to everyone about my opinion and some of my personal preferences in life. I'll have to go soon because I have a meeting, but I'll tell you what. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Jason. Let's
Yeah,
wrap it up with
absolutely.
some questions if you have, or comments, or let's have a nice wrap up from your side.
So my biggest question, I think, was tying into what you're saying before about loving the embedded systems and having more people learn that level of things. Because I feel like, do you feel like it's happening because it's hard, because it's not cool? Because what I'm seeing happening, right, especially with AI, is you see a company like NVIDIA, right, and they're not just a graphics processing company anymore, right? They provide the high-end processors that can do very specific jobs. One of those things happens to be graphics processing, right? So is there a cool factor for people to want to go into that field, right?
Yeah, so I think that a lot of the large companies, those that are actually in high CPU technologies, are doing something on their own. I'm not saying that we can only rely on few companies that already have their abilities um, and their achievements exposed. But with that, I would say that everybody keeps a secret, not because they don't want the world to know, but rather than they don't want other competitors to guess
Right,
what they're
right,
doing.
right, right,
And
right,
I'm pretty sure that soon we'll have a little bit of a revolution there, because when we see the other players come in, we will see the differences and we will assess what's been achieved, as from holistic perspective. What else can we do is the question.
hmm
And
hmm
that's an open question, because it can grow to you know to infinity of our thoughts.
right, right,
But,
right,
what is achieved so far and what has been done is not uh, in a small role of the compute itself. We know that currently we have supercomputers that work to predict weather. They're doing a good business, but not great business. So AI is the
right.
same way, probably. And in the future,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
will, hopefully, with quantum computing and other forms of computing, we will reach a stage where we will cross a threshold. That threshold is what we're looking for. How do we achieve
right,
something that's revolutionary, new in AI than
right.
all we see now? That's the
I get
question.
you.
That's what I'm
Right.
looking for in the future.
All right. So, the last question then. Since that compute power is
Yep.
increasing, and we're talking about it on the gateways, and that's the whole reason why we're able to do the stuff that we're doing at Purple, right? Is because these gateways are now becoming capable
Right.
of doing those
Yes.
things, right? What is
Right.
what's your favorite? What's your favorite app? What's your favorite gateway app? With not in from a brand perspective, but like a use case.
Well, I mean, I'm a bit biased because home automation was my thing before, and I think that I would love to see home automation bloom, and also home security, because they are related. I
Right.
would like to see that happening. When I say home automation, consider this: all the devices in the house can be connected, and using that ecosystem in the house, based on the router extenders, etc., we can have a really good collaboration between different application layers and the systems themselves. And home automation can be evolving quite a lot in the near future because of
Yeah,
the fact that it actually standardizes now.
I
Previously,
agree.
when I was working in home automation, the biggest concern and the biggest, I would say, turn off, I would say, was the fact that there was no standard and everybody was
Yeah,
doing their own thing. Um, Companies were trying to preserve viciously, if you want, their IP and not even reveal to the world how they did something. Versus now, we know how the things will be done. Now, the competition that will come next will be, let's see who does it better.
right,
And
right,
that's what I'm
right,
looking for in the home automation, along with the service. Of course, I want our service to be excellent. When I say ours, I mean all operators to have excellent service. Um,
right,
I don't wish anyone to have worse than ours or
right,
better than ours. I want we all to excel in that. But also, what do we see as competition in the premise is that what ecosystem can you assure for your customers is the most important
right,
thing. And
right, right,
my,
right.
my passion is there in the home automation and
Exactly. And as we said before, what that really means is that everything just works.
exactly, exactly to the point. I wish
Cool.
I can have your kind of like uh, barking at the devices and saying, "Do this, do that, do that." So I turn around and everything is done for me. Even meal is cooked and all
It
that.
would be so great.
But we're not there yet. But we're getting
No.
there. We're getting there slowly but surely.
All right, cool. Thank you, Evgeny. I appreciate it. And I bet a lot of our colleagues will appreciate the fact that we've talked about these things.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity. I
Yeah,
mean, it's amazing how open and how, I mean, again, I'm expressing my personal opinions on things. I wish people are not that judgmental, because nowadays, if you express something that has a negative connotation or at least hints of it, um, you're the bad guy, you're the witch.
there's a lot of la 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 la. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So, but let's see how reality turns around. It's a reality life. It's not wish list.
yeah,
So
I agree.
let's work in a better way in the future and fulfill the wish list in
Mhm.
reality.
And how can you do that? You can do that by subscribing to this podcast on YouTube,
Of course. Always. Thank you very much.
commenting, finding both of us, Evgeny and I, both on LinkedIn if you want. Um, and above all, you can help shape the future by owning the nerdy things that you love and having fun doing them.
Of course.
Thanks, Evgeny.
Thank you very much.